Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Yes, we did do a sound check beforehand. We good, Ben? Yes. All right, exciting. It's the most wonderful time of year. It's Solstice poetry reading time. Hi, I am Matt Birdsall, editor, poet, father, and TLT Board of Trustee member. Myself, small part and a large part team puts this together. So the first thing I do is just tell everyone we need to start off with gratitude. So thank you so much to the Poetry Subcommittee, to Michele Burns, to Tecumseh Land Trust, and Glen Helen Association for helping us all be here tonight. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because we have a full lineup and I can be verbose. With all that said, I really want to also say thank you very much to Alex Cutler at the Dayton Daily News, to Channel 5. Ben Guenther is here filming this evening. Thank you so much, Ben. And Riley Dixon at the Yellow Springs News. There was a wonderful article on the front page of the Yellow Springs News today. If you caught that, you caught me saying things that were really, really smart. So thanks, Riley. I appreciate that. Before we jump right into things, I want to invite up Michele Burns, the Executive Director of the Tecumseh Land Trust, and Sarah Strong, the Outreach Manager for the Glen Helen, to come up here and just say a few words. We are here to support nonprofit organizations. So hopefully you're feeling generous in a number of different ways this evening. Thank you so much for your attention. You'll be dealing with me all night long. Without further ado, Michele and Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Matt. Thank you all for being here. This has been such a great event that we've been doing now for 14 years. Super excited to be back here at Glen Helen, which we hold a conservation easement on, so it's forever protected, along with the 38,000 plus acres we have protected over the 30 some odd years we've been around. So yeah. And just to say, as a big shout out to all of you who've been part of our big campaign to protect the property west of Yellow Springs on Dayton Yellow Springs Road. We should be closing on that next week. We are so excited. It is such a milestone. Been in the works since the 1970s, and here we are. So thank you all.
Good evening. Welcome to Glen Helen. And a special thank you and welcome to our poets who will be reading this evening. I'm Sarah Strong. For those of you who are new to the Glen, we are a 1,200 plus acre private nature preserve. We boast a raptor center, an outdoor education center serving over 3,000 children per year. We have over 15 miles of trails that are available for hiking. We love that you're here. We love the Tecumseh Land Trust and this event. So thank you very much and enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much, Michele and Sarah. I really appreciate you come up here and giving those words. We have one more space for tonight's open mic. If you want, we have no more spaces for tonight's open mic. I got you. All right. So I decided to do something a little bit different. The thing that everybody hates to do at these readings is start things off, right? And we always do this in alphabetical order. So to provide a little bit of a buffer, I'm going to read a poem, not even my poem, just a poem to get us kind of warmed up for the evening, if you will. It's one of my favorite poems. So bear with me. This is by a poet named Tony Hoagland. We lost Tony recently, sadly, to a long bout with cancer. It's called Field Guide. Once, in the cool blue middle of a lake, up to my neck in that most precious element of all, I found a pale gray, curled upwards pigeon feather floating on the tension of the water at the very instant when a dragonfly, like a blue-green iridescent bobby pin, hovered over it, then lit and rested. That's all. I mention this in the same way that I fold the corner of a page in certain library books, so that the next reader will know where to look for the good parts. Again, thank you all for joining us. Our first poet is Bill Abbott.
All right, so readers. So here we go. We face down the end of our world, notice the after effects of the wildfires scattered across our lives, glance to the skies in hopes of rain, lose our way through this maze of metaphorical trees in this wilderness that we call civilization. We look for salvation in the moon, give way to the effigies of fascism, hope it will all works out, even if we don't do anything beyond wishing someone else would save us. But the smoke is choking our hope for some sort of rescue, and as long as we are in a wreckage of a once functional society, we wouldn't know where the exit is, where we solve our own problems in the face of a world gone askew. That's above our pay grade, we scream. There's no way out, we shout. Having tried nothing so far, we don't look for an escape, nor do we worry over the ruins. The idea of fixing our problems, if we only try, is too daunting. If nobody else is trying after all, what good can each of us do? What success is there with not enough hands on the wheel? So why bother? Isn't hoping for the best enough effort in the face of collapse? So we watch, trapped by the cold winds, trapped by the anxieties of being surrounded by this society going crazy with greed, as the worst and the wealthiest consolidate their power, as they curl themselves over their ever-growing piles of gold, threatening anyone with absolute reigns of destruction in this season of dryness, in a time of moral drought, when this social contract is clearly the most fragile. We dream of a deus ex machina, a cavalry just over the hill, a divine intervention that isn't coming. We plan to save our valuables, hide away the important things in the face of overwhelming loss, in the face of everything being taken until we have nothing left, until this war machine takes everything and we are left in a smoldering ruin of what we once called reality. The wilds we call our lives can only burn for so long before the fuel is all consumed. But when all is lost, that will include the things we hold most dear. Before they burn everything down as the flames are still consuming, we need to stop them. We need to rescue the embers, hold them in our souls, and reignite our resolve to resist. The ember in your hand, the one glowing in your very core, is the key to staying warm in a time of cold fear. It is the best way of holding back the frigid fires of authoritarianism, the best way to inspire your resolve to fight instead of giving in. That inner heat, that ember of resistance is what you need. It's what we need to find our resolve, to try to resolve this destruction of what we hold dear, to fight back against the takers, to become what we most need, ourselves, with an inner flame and a burning sense of what's worth defending as they try to demolish and take what and who we are. So find and hold tight to those embers. Let them spark and smolder. Let them give and inspire you in your times of fear and doubt. Don't let them take by giving too easily. Do not comply in advance. Find the will to hold your ground, make them work hard for it, and when they try for your glowing ember, blow the ashes in their faces. This many embers combined in this space, this many voices burning with determination, has the power to push back when they push forward. Don't let the bastards grind you down.
Thank you so much, Bill. We seek salvation in the moon, which wouldn't be too challenging tonight, everyone. It's a doozy out there. If I didn't say this before, and I know that I didn't, Bill just did a wonderful example of working towards our theme of Ember. The theme of tonight is Ember, so just to let everybody know, it is on the program, but why not say it again? You'll notice that I'm not going to read these bios. I'm hoping that you all will take a look on your own time, but I would like to invite up our next reader, who is Steve Abbott. Thanks, Steve.
I'm one of those annoying people who thinks he can poke fires and build them better than anybody else. This is called Tending a Fire. When the light that warmed and fed has consumed itself, collapsed to pulsing fists, I poke to create splinters of another life. An opening becomes uplift, updraft that draws wraiths of smoke along charred edges. What appears vacant between logs is a mouth of a cave where a future rises, first as ripple of heat, then movement that dances and spikes, becomes transparent dancers finding their way upward, pulling me with them, pulling me in. This next one is part of a series, and I have no idea really what the setting for it is. It's basically a bunch of people on some type of movement, and I don't know whether this is probing historical things and things related to the winter solstice, or whether it's a psychological terrain, or whether it's looking at current events. This is called Journal, late December. Wassail and gingerbread pulled us to where flames cracked the cold, in coals where our shared breath pulsed. A long night's vigil until sky's fire began to stretch the horizon. Our stories brought laughter and comfort. We slept well again. Each day, the world we are passing through becomes brighter. And this last one, a bit longer than the others, is called Rekindling the Air. Weeks ago, the last fire pit of the season, I stilled to listen to Cardinal and Killdeer debate the benefits of nightfall. And now snow's thin debut. I've brought the fire inside, more for atmosphere than heat, each day slower, shorter, the light dying sooner on a world grown cold. We gather, silent, at the hearth, and try to ignore the menace of a whippoorwill's presence, preferring to meditate on a saw-whet owl's two assurance that makes us wonder where we're headed toward. I want simple answers, but stare at pictures pulsing in a fire's living coals, hypnotized by the same messages read by cave dwellers, huddled in a warm circle of light, glancing over hunched shoulders into the vast hostility of darkness. Bathed in the wisdom of persistence, I cling to what light we have and know it will return, each sun rising higher as songbirds again spark trees, as each day draws me further into rekindled air, where this glow we are will spread over the earth.
Thanks, Steve. That's bathed in the wisdom of persistence. Absolutely love that line. Thank you so much. All right, just a reminder, there will be an open mic as soon as we've finished with our scheduled readers. Our next reader is Jim Brooks.
Great picture of John Lennon right here. Everybody should see it. First of all, great thanks to Matt Birdsall, Yellow Springs Community, WYSO, and everybody who supports poetry in this part of Ohio. You're doing a great job and a great service for all of us. Also like to remember a mentor of mine, Herb Martin. Probably most of you know that name. Now 92 or so, and probably not doing so well, but I can tell you that he's influenced me and many other poets in our state. So I'll start with my Ember poem. I heard that word a lot back in the early part of this year when there were fires in Altadena, Pasadena, California. You know, just sort of a wildfire swept through these suburban communities. And I think we probably all have images of what that was like. It's unbelievable. And my friend Ken Bowman has a house there in Altadena, and he told me about the random floating of embers that landed on certain homes and then just took them in. Remnants. Oh, he knew the danger lurking in embers. Smokey the Bear warned him back in the 60s that untended, undoused campfires could smolder for hours before igniting dry timber. And his friend from Altadena gave a first-hand account of flying limbs and flaming fronds landing randomly on this home or that, deadly playthings of the Santa Ana winds, leveling one American dream after another. But on this Friday evening in early December, as another Ohio winter arrives, the deceptive soft gray ash on the surface of dwindling logs reveals a soft red-orange glow that matches his beating heart, while he breathes to keep the fire alive within. The sparks and rhythms of his youth reignite those ecstatic moments that gave birth to romance and friendship, or caused scars of disappointment and even a few brushes with death. He reimagines better outcomes for the could-have-beens, the roads not taken. All of these companions found along the way have faded to cinders, but still have their say. I suppose everybody in this room has moved at least once in their life. And anybody still living in the house that they grew up in? Probably not too many of us. Wrote this one some years back when we moved into our home in Kettering. Moving in. What suffocates in boxes now has room to breathe and stake its claim to life. Empty shelves invite old titles, new desires. Out come newspaper-wrapped icons from decades past, a Russian Madonna and child, Japanese tigers lapping water from a stream, a photo of the red brick homestead. But something is missing here, not objects, but sounds, a neighbor's wind chimes, breezes rattling a loose window pane, the train whistle which divides late night from early morning. They've been replaced by the distant drone of a relentless highway that knows nothing of separation. I sit in the living room, 1 a.m., reading the life of Saint-Exupéry, with one ear cocked towards silence, when an owl lets loose its muted cry against the lowering clouds of winter. And something, at least for me, seasonal, having to do with the Nativity. I would dedicate it to all of those who are seeking a home, have lost a home, are victims of war in the many places in our world where that exists. Also, I'd like to mention just the UDOLI program, University of Dayton Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, for people 50 and over, and I think there are a few of you out there who are 50 and over. Now is the time to sign up for some classes. There are about 80 being offered in the winter. Really great classes on many, many different topics, including poetry. And you can go to their website, UDOLI with an I instead of a Y. In search of a birthplace. They are homeless when a home is most needed, still wandering when fatigue sets in like a rising fever. She on a beast like one the child would later ride into Jerusalem, and he the stable, encouraging presence in every step. It will be soon, he says with false confidence. Someone will say yes. They seek shelter beneath emerging constellations that breathe upon their quiet, desperate journey to an obscure destination off a beaten path called Bethlehem. Others will follow and witness the everyday miracle of a woman giving birth to an extraordinary child whose first cry will be an eternal word dwelling in human flesh. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Jim. That was just wonderful. Really strong imagery so far tonight. All right. We have our fourth reader coming up next. Please welcome Rita Coleman.
Invitation from Mount Greylock, Massachusetts. Mounded in sloping rock, upthrust in eons past, Mount Greylock invites you in. Step inside the wind and touch the face of an ancient. Look past the eyes into the double helix and plunge into the eye of nature. Drink with an open throat, slaking ever-present thirst, reminded that the same water flooded the land and rained upon the reptile hides of small-brained dinosaurs before fire hailed from the sky. Walk in meditation upon this finely ordered earth where all the answers you will ever need are shielded in smooth leaves and pungent fruit, a rich home of soil for trails and trees and dreams to feed your wandering. Come, says the Grande Dame, slip into memory, a sudden glance, a whispered hint, and find yourself in a timeless loop of no beginning and no end in the midst of invisible presence. This is from my second book. Title poem, And Yet. Out of the inky spill emerged tiny objects sculpted into faces, words, wings. Drum beats coaxed them into villages of shadows. The search for sky virtues, designed only for the earth, caves, fields, rivers, leads to dwellings of long ago mothers and terrified children, vigilant for night monsters. Starborn birds drop feathers of hope, scarlet, azure, iridescent, reassuring lost ones they will find the way. When forgiveness is served, knots of fury untangle. Woven love cradles earthen plates and primitive paintings lit by a circle of fire bright, all of it fragrant as star anise. This is from book number 3, and it is the title poem, In the Near Distance. From the stable they call me, the yonder horses. Vowels and consonants tumble over their big teeth, spill out their big mouths. Nicker, nicker, whinny! Across the way, the metal thudge of sledgehammer pings its end strike onto iron wrought into a lizard sculpture, poised to climb an adobe wall. The desert gods are generous today. Coo-ah-coo from a dove morning night. Arizona sun, cool day. A ring of snow-topped peaks, rock and scrub, protect the tender valley. All is ranch here in the midst of thorned mesquite that grabs and pierces, barrel cactus that lists a plump body to one side, old saguaros, arms upraised in supplication. Big sky protects this parched valley until rain puddles, year-round now, while the blaze of sun drops in the far distance, and the cold night brings the jubilation of stars. This last poem was inspired by the poet W.S. Merwin. It's called My Common Life. Thank you, my common life, this season of advanced time, when words claim me in sweet afternoons, when I listen at the window, look out into the deep pine forest. Thank you for the good man who came when I was ready, spice and balm these many days, for smooth voices of friends, for good dogs who found me, for a life greater than expected. Thank you for pastel canyons, cloud-draped skyscrapers, for the roll of a big ship, white sands stretched along a curve of earth, all of these sights mine to keep in this life of travel and stops. Thank you for mangled metal, going broke, turned backs, closed caskets, for the forward trudge from black holes deep enough to suck me in, always within view, to survive so many. Thank you for sturdy legs, one good hand, one good eye, for this string of bones held together by nature and will, long enough to reap the harvest of this common life. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you for this string of bones and interconnected tube system that we all are. Amanda, are you here? Outstanding. Our next poet is Amanda Nicole Corbin. Thank you.
Well, I apologize for being late, but it is an honor to be here and hear your words. And I knew I had to come as soon as I saw this was the same place I used to go to camp every summer as a preteen. So it's really cool to be back and to be with all of you. So thank you. This poem is called Thoughts That Don't Surprise Me as I Try to Meditate. While dissecting an orange, I realized the aurora borealis does not save my marriage, but I hadn't asked it to. I have been embarrassingly unintimate with citrus throughout my life. Unlike his eyes, his phone captures the light. He says, "There, that's where it is." We are supposed to separate the unnamed layers of pulp and peel one by one, like pages of flesh. I tell him the aurora borealis doesn't exist in a single place, but I follow him to it anyway, like a child. I tear through them all at once. I saw pictures from last night. I keep saying surgery when I mean autopsy. This makes a difference because my impatience means pain in only one of these situations. And it was brilliant, they say. Tonight, possibly even more brilliant. At least a sharper tool means a cleaner cut. Tonight was not more brilliant, but it was something I still haven't found a sure answer to. Whether oranges are dead or alive after a certain point. The seeds, however, remain dormant. His phone photographs colors better than mine, but my eyes carry at best. Air sinks back into itself, but knows nothing of exactness. This is what makes death a breeze. When I search for a cross-section of the layers of an orange, I am shown the sun. On stars and flowers, this glow is called a corona. Until you spend time with something, it's easy to assume. The outer layer is thicker or thinner than you imagine. The only good picture I get might as well be nightless. Whenever slowness is the point, I think of the name of everything flammable, how quickly it gets replaced by fire. My picture are two silhouetted shadows outlined by lamplight, suspended shapes within arm's reach. Maybe this means the harvest is also a kind of death in someone else's eyes, as our eyes, throats, hearts, chests search the same sky but face two different directions. Thanks. For context, that was the aurora borealis we had recently. I missed the first night and then went out the second night, kind of saw it. And I also participated in an urban art space workshop recently over at Ohio State where it was an autopsy of an orange, so we were slowly dissecting the fruit. And if you can't tell, I'm not really good at slow, calm stuff, so we're working on that. This one recently was runner-up in Black Warrior Review's contest, and very proud of this one too. It's called The Doctor Tells Me to Stimulate My Vagus Nerve. I want to be so good at everything before I know it. And now I'm supposed to gargle water, reach my hands up, and tickle the underpit of my brain because this tells the body we are safe. But I am nectar thirsty. I want to name birds by their shadows and hunt for questions in the grass. Just last night, I fell asleep to David Attenborough's voice meandering jeweled messengers through my mind. This is what he calls them more often than he calls them hummingbirds. I want to move so fast, I too get named after a sound. The doctor tells me to start singing and laughing and chanting so I can stop feeling like I'm living on a knife's edge. That is only how hummingbirds should live. The part I struggle with most is the lying. It's not the cold showers, not the deep breathing, but the milky gray myths humming my hands over my ears. We're fine, we're fine, we're fine. I'm so bad at singing that it's dishonest to let my son fall asleep when I do. Beneath the scratchy sky of my voice, I bemoan how little I know of the stars. Each poem I write is one more temporary truth I don't have to tell him. Like how every book is nonfiction until we're old enough to understand that maybe the pigeon actually really shouldn't be driving the bus, or that it was never a song of the throat. The hummingbird gets its name from its wings. So during breakfast, I meditate on the magic of Santa and airplane spoons, how Vegas means wanderer, but messengers have a mission. And I want to be a messenger. I want to be a brilliant messenger because someday I will have to explain sometimes depressions removed from the bones of wanting to live too much. Because one day I will get to tell him that the hummingbird's heart is bigger than a blue whale's. Because another day I will have to tell him that's only true relative to size. This one is about postpartum, and it's called Weedy Sea Dragons. It was published by Palette Poetry. Somewhere in Ohio, gloved scientists high-five because a male weedy sea dragon did his job, and now there are more weedy sea dragons. In the shower, seaweed that isn't seaweed but is postpartum slithers down my leg, and I know it is time to accept another round of shedding. Everything, even gain, is some kind of loss, even after. How many times I have been in almost hemorrhage, one Band-Aid short of an emergency. How much of myself I have wiped from toilet seats or bed sheets or my own glasses. Safety looks like fists of kelp and seagrass to the weedy sea dragons. So I build my own forest, sticking loose hair to the fake wet marble and think about how it might be nice to be a weedy sea dragon off the Australian coast or in a Columbus aquarium. But then I remember that weedy sea dragons hide stomachless amongst the weeds and wonder what it would mean to be unseen. Last one, this is Iterations, published in Pile Press. I need to remember my body is a cultivated clonal colony, and I am not a one-leaf tree, rolling foliage into groves. I am never completely new, but why would I be? To grow is to retrieve the ripest seeds of ourselves. To change is to leave the rest beneath our feet. The liver can reforge itself faster than our minds. Each cell is an iteration of the last. Write a word 1,000 times. Tell me they all look the same. You, 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 you. In print, we all look similar, but we are not digital beings. So let's take ourselves like sourdough starters, kiss the microbes of those whose cells we share, including our own, shove our embittered mass into the oven. May we become the rising yeast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was outstanding. We want to name the birds after their shadows. All right. You will note that some of our poets are reading from books that they have written and published. Those books may or may not be for sale in our lobby during the break, which will be coming up shortly. Our next poet that I'd like to welcome up to the stage is Grace Curtis.
Okay, thanks. I like this. Thank you.
It's good to be the queen. There we go. All right.
I'm going to read two poems. The first one is titled Vladimir and Estragon, and those are the characters from Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, and of course the poem is about waiting. The day is bathed in the uneasy light of irreverence. It's like this each day, the day dressing in a form it's been given, or rather falling into it without thought, as if it were a calling. I want to call upon a bird to fill the empty spaces. I want this to be about wingspan and instinct, about how a bird finds shelter in the green leaves of a lilac bush, how it waits. Have you ever noticed how things wait? How a cat skulks at the perimeter, moving nothing. Even when no leaf lifts, he waits. An experiment that began years ago observes coal tar pitch fall one drop at a time, once every decade. The cat waits. The day buttons itself into whatever cloak it's been given. The bird holds its breath in the thicket. Coal tar pitch gathers into a tear and waits. This is a poem I wrote for this event, and thank you for inviting me. I love this event. It's titled, After a News Article on Canadian Wildfires. It begins with an epigraph from that article that was written by Alec Loon. Even at minus 40 degrees Celsius, the fire keeps smoldering. There is something in the persistence of Solstice that calls to mind zombie fires that continue to glow beneath the frozen surface of winter's repression. How a flame continues on beneath the weight of snow is science. Peat, oxygen, a long-forgotten spark. What it represents is indomitability, buried embers mimicking the sun's warmth, a light on the year's darkest day. According to astronomers, Stonehenge was aligned by the ancients so that on solstice, the sun sets precisely between two of the sarsen stones, a seasonal check mark. How so much means so much to so many and always will. Warmth, for example, the promise of spring. Community, the promise of noble purpose. A mouth, the promise of posture, the ember of resistance. Solstice, all that fires up in a sun-hidden boreal wood just when the dark feels its longest. A visible smoke plume, a dozen holdover fires reignited into explosive blazes. Not the last, but the first hope of lighter times. Look, a plume over there, and there, and there, and there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Grace has a new book out. Rita has a new book out. Just a few of the folks. Our next reader is Cathryn Essinger.
Grace, this is about right. I'm going to read 3 poems. 2 of them are from a new manuscript that comes out from Sheila Nagig in the spring. Redbird. The cardinal that I rescued from a snowbank is now proselytizing from the top of the maple. I hope he is mentioning the warmth of the house, the fancy new bird feeder with sunflower seed, and the heated water bowl on the patio. I suspect he is talking about himself, like most of the converts that I have met, as if their revelations might be passed on like a simple communion, since none of us can depend upon being godsmacked by a window or expect a warming hand to lift us from the cold. We have to make do with whatever falls our way. And yet today I held a redbird in my hand, feathers askew, top knot blown to the side, brighter than a valentine taped to the closet door. In truth, I could have held him all day, made him a familiar at my windowsill, but I know he should be singing for his mate, advertising his prowess, promising to defend their nest. I hope she will not find him wanting, can warm to the exuberance, is not offended by his urgency, or the new longing in his song that only I can hear. This is actually a Valentine's poem, but I think you will recognize the Midwest in the winter. Everyone's sweetheart. In the 30 seconds that it takes to mail a letter at the local post office, the clerk behind the counter calls me sweetheart, honey, darlin'. Before I have time to be offended, she moves on to the grandfather next in line, calling him Gramps, sweetie, and precious. Yeah. She ladles out endearments as if we are refugees from a world where affection is always denied. And perhaps she is right. In the line that stretches out the door, surely there is someone fresh from heartbreak, someone mailing a Valentine to a lover who will never respond. But that person is not the young man who is mailing a box of Sweet and Low, 1,000 packets, to his girlfriend in L.A. He has plastered the pink box with kisses and written her name across the logo. Can I mail it like this, he asks. She said she's dieting and not to send sweets. Yeah. The clerk calls him baby doll, checks the zip code, assures him it will arrive on time. Those standing in line examine their plane parcels destined for Boston, California, Japan, with nothing to show they came from the snowbound residents of the upper Midwest, where Valentine's Day is always frigid, just a nod towards love in boots and a parka. Puddles widen around our shoes as we wait, suddenly aware of our own loneliness and our desire to go unnoticed in a world that might love us again if we could give it one more chance, if we could just say, sweetheart, darling, lover. Thank you. When I press my cheek to the glass of heaven, I hope to be forgiven for the lack of faith in the natural world. Behind the mask of science, reason, myth, there is forever another mask. Every intricacy slipping us clues, but never the answer we want. A bird lays an egg in a nest in a tree that my father planted from an acorn 30 years ago. It changes everything. It changes nothing. Inside the fruit, a seed. Inside the seed, another tree planning its next assault on spring. Complexity within complexity. Infinity, nothing more than another layer of uncertainty. And yet I have been told that spiders dream, that flowers shiver at a human touch, that the cosmos can pulse and breathe at a discernible pace.
Thank you, Cathryn. Infinity is just another intricacy. Gosh, I missed that line, but it was outstanding. Okay. Next up, our reader is Arvilla Fee. Arvilla Fee.
So Amanda, I was late too. Don't feel bad. In fact, me and some stranger out in the audience was wandering around the roads together. I mean, we actually ended up in the same wrong parking lot together. So we were very, very lost, but we were together, so it was fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. All right, so I have several tonight, short ones, and I took the term Ember as almost like a fragment. And so while it's not actually like a fire ember in a lot of these poems, it's a fragment of something, if that makes sense. This one is called Maybe a Fire. Life had left him under a bridge, had ground dirt beneath his nails, had let wind bite holes in the sides of his makeshift canvas shack. His body lay curled in the shape of a question mark, asking why it starved. A Sunday school dream pushing against the edges of his addled brain, something about 2 fishes and loaves feeding 5,000. Maybe the preacher would stop by tomorrow, his pockets full of peaches and unanswered prayers. Maybe he'd build a fire in the old steel barrel, then sit cross-legged on a scrap of cardboard. make himself at home among transients and tramps, shoot the breeze until the woodpile shook loose every hellish ghost and burned itself down to embers. This one was inspired by, I don't know if inspired's a good word. It pressed heavy on me in light of all the different wars going on. And this one and the next one, I was thinking, like, what do we as humans leave behind? What fragment will we have left? Art will live on. Epigraph by William Shakespeare, All the World's a Stage. After the last failed ceasefire, after the last bomb craters the earth, scattering its soil and sand, after the last ash rains from the sky, settling like bone fragments upon broken window panes, after the last body is buried among the rubble, a piece of paper will emerge, curled, half burnt, but with a smattering of words still visible, something that someone once stooped over an old oak desk to write with ink and quill. All the world's a, and all the men and women merely, they have their exits and their. A man will clutch the piece to his chest, tears carving twin rivers down his gaunt cheeks. But it will be more precious to him than bread, for words have survived, have overcome man and his ferocity, and this is the piece he will use, will heave upon his shoulders like a pair of pails to begin washing the gaping holes of the wounded. This is the piece he will use to pour life back into a broken world. And then this one's called Leaving Our Mark, kind of in that same vein. No clay-covered palms pressed upon cave walls. No stickmen pursuing bison with their spears. No handmade pottery vessels forged in fire. No buried arrowheads or berry-colored beads. Only static stories and a cache of ones and zeros, language firmly pressed into future's fragile flesh. Progress hung on blades of stationary windmills, the sun's scorched reflection in a million panes of glass. The last human remnant will forage empty gardens, poke our ripped synthetics and scattered melamine. Abstracts will hang limply in hybrid art museums. They'll find our skull emojis, cheap garnish on the graves. And then this one's a little bit happier, so you're not all like sobbing out there. This one called There's a Burning. I smile as I lay the wood piece by piece in the fireplace. There's an art to building a fire, choosing the best, not too brittle, not too green, and don't forget the kindling. It's those small details that make or break a fire. Once laid, once lit, I retreat to my recliner, snuggling beside my sleek tabby, whose warmth has spread across the worn cushion. The wind beats its fist against the panes of glass, but it can't get in. My late husband made sure of that, him with his carpenter hands. And so even in the dead of winter, when snowfall makes slopes against the siding and icicles grip the eaves, I'm content to watch amber flames dance like sprightly ballerinas as I slowly sip my ginger tea. And then this one is very lighthearted as well. At age 59, yes, I'm telling on myself, my husband and I have a 5-year-old at home. And he was our foster child until we decided that since no one was going to take him, that we were going to adopt him. So we call it our Abraham and Sarah moment, for those of you who are familiar with that. Thank God I'm not 100. But this is kind of a whimsical poem, kind of based on, his 5-year-old curiosity. It's called A Star's Last Wink. Mama, Mama, do you know how many stars are in the sky? How many stars are born each year, and where stars go when they die? Dearest child, there are billions, way more than we can know. Heat and gas give birth to stars. They turn to diamonds when they go. See that diamond over there that's blowing you a kiss? It's falling to the earth right now so you can make a wish. Close your eyes, then open them. See what happens when you blink? The star will nod its aging head and give you its last wink. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that you got lost on the way here. I hope everyone is enjoying the diversity of voices. Just such a range that we're hearing this evening. I love it. Next up, David Lee Garrison.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. I always just think this is one of the most wonderful nights of the year. I love it. And I'm going to read 3 short poems. This one is a snow poem, which I thought was appropriate, but I realized in bringing it that it has a hot ember in it as well. It's called Terre Haute. I hugged a girl in Terre Haute, caressed inside her overcoat one winter night out by the quarry. We sneaked away from home and kissed like secret lovers in a story, but it was mainly lust we wrote on slabs of limestone. Moonlight tryst, a heart to heart, a throat to throat, we tangled up and barely spoke. We intertwined ourselves like oak trees grown together, stood so close that steam was rising, or was it smoke? A wonder that a week of snows beneath us didn't melt. Oh, those persimmon lips of hers were haute cuisine, unbuttoned sweater, haute couture. Our noses nearly froze, but we were hot in Terre Haute. And I'm going to read a couple of dog poems. If you have a dog, one thing about it, having a dog, is that you know that no matter how snowy and cold and awful it is, you got to walk the dog. And this is kind of a takeoff on the Genesis story of the creation, and it plays on the anagram of God, spelled the other way, dog. All right, it's called And Dog Said. In the beginning, God said to Dog, "Your name is mine in the mirror, so I grant you the next creation." And Dog said, "I would like someone to walk with me." So God made man with hardly any sense of smell and just 2 legs. And God said to Dog, "He has only a few words, like come and fetch. And he knows little of the earth and its aromas, but let him totter along behind you and learn." And this last one is called Meatballs, another dog poem. My dog tells me she hasn't eaten for days, when what is causing her relentless display of pathos, the litany of groans, the big wet eyes, that pleading look, is the smell of meatballs in tomato sauce and Marsala wine simmering on the stove. I tell her to wait. She tells me it is hard to wait, and I agree, I'm hungry too. I promise her a taste, and for a moment she is quiet. She understands every word I say and knows now she's got me by the meatballs.
Great poem, Dave. But I will need my John Lennon folder back. Don't walk away with that. How do you follow that? Doggone. That was a good one.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. The next reader is my unknowing seatmate, Judy James.
Brought my little assistant with me tonight. The view up here is lovely. I don't get to see it very often like this. John will give me inspiration. So I brought a couple of poems. First one I'm going to read is from a book I published when I first started writing several years ago. And I think it was one of our readers here mentioned the OSHA, lifelong learning. When I was in Florida, I was a member, and that's what got me started writing poetry. So it was nice to hear that they have OSHA here. So this one is called Winter. Winter's sigh brings rest, quiet space for reflection, cold winds clear thought debris, warm breath seals intention. Invite winter's veil to wrap you in peaceful solace. Stoke your inner flame. Allow melting ice to reveal your light. Rejoice in rebirth when trees blossom. This next one I wrote a couple of weeks ago when we had our first snowfall. And I was watching it and I got inspired. It comes quietly, no fanfare, riding on the heels of raindrops. It sneaks in, hoping to remain inconspicuous. A flake here, one there, nothing large. Then, slowly, when no one is looking, it rounds the corner, bowing to the rain and taking center stage. At first, melting on warm pavement, it is swallowed into roads and sidewalks. Grass, however, offers her cushion, and snow gratefully accepts. Trees, too, offer their leaves, and before you know it, snow is spreading her white essence, leaving us to breathe in the beauty of the first snow of the season. Here's another one about snow, and this one is called The Silence of Snow. What makes us want to whisper when watching snowfall? Why do we feel a sense of peace, a sense of calm as we stand by the window? Does it bring the interlude we crave when we can sweep away our thoughts and wrap ourselves in quiet solitude? Or is it the silent reminder to stop for a moment and receive the beauty so graciously offered? What is it about the silence of snow? And this one is about the wind. I love the wind, sometimes speaking softly as in a summer breeze, carrying yearning lovers' passionate cries, or in the harsh shriek of the trumpet's war signal at dawn's first light. Her voice may comfort or frighten, enlighten or stultify. Her currents have spread the philosopher's deep thoughts far and wide and wrapped the wisdom of the sages in her ethereal voice. She has carried the muses' melodies, inspiring poets and musicians while birds float freely on her breath. Blow, wind, blow, bring your wisdom and warnings, sonnets and songs, and play for us your symphony. I love the wind. And this last one, I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing lots of people in my generation. And so I think you will all recognize this. And feel free to hum along, because I know that's what you're going to do. The title is If I Had a Hammer. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening. Where have all the flowers gone? What's going on? The answers, my friend, are blowing in the wind. I dreamed I saw the bomber jet planes, and it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? 4 dead in Ohio. Why must we go on hating? Come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together. The times, they are a-changin', 'cause out on the edge of darkness there rides a peace train. Everyone jump on the peace train. Look at life from both sides now. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Give peace a chance. Inspiring words that led our generation through change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. Our next reader is the Poet Laureate of Dayton, Ohio, Sierra Leone.
Good evening. It is an honor and joy to be here this evening, and I prepared a couple of pieces, but as I've been taking in everything being shared, I'm going to share an old piece, a collective piece, and possibly a piece you don't want to hear. Weatherman. These are the lyrics to the Philharmonic libretto that I wrote entitled Expressions, or a few of those lyrics. In honor of my sadness that I'm feeling today. The sun doesn't shine always, but it does shine. There may be shady days, but the clouds will pass. Laughter will prevail. Even when the cries are overbearing, valleys share the same space as mountain tops. I wonder about the things some do in the dark. Mask the scars. Arm yourself with righteous deeds. No matter how it reads, death is more than a cousin to sleep. My friend honesty hasn't forgiven me. I've told the same story twice. Watering a dead plant stops new heartache. No, the sun does not shine always. There may be shaded days, but the clouds will pass. Thank you. That was for our brother that we just lost yesterday unexpectedly. This piece is sort of speaking to the theme, because peace, the embers of peace, the flickering of hope, it's with us. A few of the poets who participated in this collaborative writing are in the room. And so it was a poem written for NATO when they were here earlier this spring, Matt, Faraha, a few others. So I thought I would share it. It's a mural downtown Dayton, and it's entitled On Piecework. We are tapestry of peace, clothed in cardinal directions. We braved cloaked conflict ceaselessly, unraveling shadows of silent stories. Our hearts syncopate when possibility is our handiwork. Our fingers see, our ears taste. We drum a free jazz symphony. Let us all find some peace, a steady state, beyond the greedy grasp of fearful hate. Let us work together to break vow bonds. Time will wait as fairness and truth respond. How can we, with bruises blooming on our spirit, speak against injustice? Only with the promise that when even our memories are mere myth, we will not be gone. There are no casualties to peace. We cast dandelion hopes and bumblebee dreamings, caught within the winds of the future's verisimilitude. Tomorrow, we will harvest harmony, yellowed meanings, and cherish our wish-sprouted manifest bedewed. Dig deep and to Earth's pockets for a future where more women lead. In every vow and syllable, we vow to plant peace seeds. Less waste, less apathy, less greed. More gardens, more community, more trees. Come when the year's first blooms blow. Come when the summer gleams and glows. Come with the winter's drifting snow, and you are welcome, welcome. And the last piece I'm going to read is just a snippet of this grand idea I had. Have you ever had a grand idea? And I wrote these thoughts out, and so like another poet, I was inspired during this most recent snow day that we had off. And so I created this list poem, and it's unorthodox, it doesn't rhyme, and it goes on way too long. So with the little time I have left, I'm going to read number 20 and 21. Oh, dearest winter, you blanket the crown, trunk, and ground with your fluffy white fresh flurries. Every bare and barked covered limb, needle and seed, all pristine and pure. By Friday, the ethereal beauty of your scenic fodder will be mere memory. 21. In my quotidian weariness, I had almost forgotten that little is much if God is in it. As the full moon encroaches, I accept my leftovers from autumn's harvest will keep me warm until spring. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sierra. Whew, that's heavy. We need a moment. Wow. Okay, we have one final reader this evening. Please welcome Carol Pohly.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Well, it's an honor to be reading tonight amongst so many esteemed poets. The first two poems I'm going to read were published in Arvilla Fee's online journal called Soul Poetry, Prose, and Arts magazine. When I think of embers, I often think of memories. So the first one is called Late Afternoons. It's that quiet, nostalgic time of day when sun licks the side of the world with its last interlude of light before slipping below the horizon, when it casts shadows across the sides of buildings, focuses spotlights on nests, knots, and crevices of trees, on the wood grain of barns and sheds, on insects resting on blades of grass, on the sway of wheat in fields. It's that time when memories crawl out from their hiding places and float unnoticed into the present, when inhalations of the past exhale into the current moment and love unfolds into longing. And the next one is called Forgiveness. Oh. Is it better? Can you hear me now? Okay. This is called Forgiveness. It's not the first time the expansive locust tree has injured the oak leaf hydrangea, dropping a dead limb on the hydrangea's delicate core, crushing branches that leave a gaping hole. The locust doesn't mean to be hurtful. Its limbs fall naively unaware. So much damage to clean up, raw wounds needing time to heal. Yet with instinctive grace, the hydrangea adapts, grows thicker bark, sprouts new twigs, and sometimes now the locust offers shelter in a storm. The next one I'm going to read comes out of my years as a caregiver, and it's called Seasons Blending. End of October, and garden fountains still splash into basins of granite and slate, where red and yellow leaves now slush in a colorful fall parfait. Roses still gush with saffron and gold, the colors of fruitcake and rum, as coneflowers stretch their faces high to drink in melting sun. Next week, this will all be gone, when November crisps in on a carpet of cold, crunching all into silence while another year grows old. How quickly summers come and go, and even more so now, it seems, as life tumbles through the years like a twig down a rocky stream. They leave just like the season of you, full of life until suddenly you went down a silent slope of confusion, leaving just the memory of your scent. I still miss you every day, when sun slants across the spot most bright, where you love to sit and warm yourself, your silver wheelchair glistening light. When hosta blooms, now faded to brown, plume above their thick green leaves, the only flowers you could still enjoy, the others too distant for you to see. When wind sifts through chimes' copper tubes, teases them to reverberate, and sends a clear voice across the yard, like music you used to make. The essence of you is everywhere. I close my eyes and drink it in, until in the confluence our spirits blend, and I can sip the next season once again. And the last one I'll read begins with an epigraph by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was a paleontologist and a Jesuit priest. And he wrote a number of books about the blending of science and spirituality. It's called Spirit Matters, and the epigraph is, "Matter is spirit moving slowly enough to be seen." If my spirit is matter in this temporary world, let it be as gentle and delicate as the grain of wood that stretches across my kitchen table, as intriguing and interesting as each knot and swirl, as sturdy as the table's pedestal and reliable as the boards that form its core, as supportive as its surface, offering to the hungry porcelain plates heaped with chicken and potatoes, to the weary cups of chamomile tea, to the writer a desk on which to create, to the reader a haven where imagination flows. And let me be like a gathering circle for intimate conversation. If my spirit is matter as I travel this planet, let me be useful. Thank you.
Let me be like a gathering circle. Here we are. It is now break time. We will have about 20 to 30 minutes to get a snack, drinks, have some chit-chats. We'll come back for open mic. Thank you all for your attention. Hi, everyone. We're going to play this fast and loose. So the first open micer is Patti Dallas. Patti. We've been promised a song, everyone. We've been promised a song. I'm holding you to that, Patti. And then, Patti, you're going to introduce our next poet.
Oh, okay.
Is that legible?
Yep.
It won't be like that the whole way.
Know
Okay.
who that is.
I know. I remember. We had this whole conversation.
Well, many of you might know I've made some recordings of music for children in another lifetime. And so I thought I would sing one of the children's songs that I wrote. If you know it, you can sing along, but that's okay if you don't. Let's see now. Do you remember how it starts? Sun fill the sky, birds flying high, and flowers all over the ground. Wind, kiss the trees, let go the leaves of yellow, reds, and brown. What a wonderful world of colors we sing in summer, fall, winter, and spring. In love our creation has given everything in summer, fall, winter, and spring. The snow gently clothes the earth all in white. The days grow short and long is the night. Then up pops the robin to sing her springtime song as the colors of love roll the seasons along. Thank you. Thank you. Now our next poet is Marna Street.
Well, as we say down home, Shabbat Shalom. This poem is called Tikkun Olam, and loosely translated from the Hebrew, that means repair of the world. There are many, many midrash, which is oral tradition, about the creation story and sparks scattering everywhere. So it kind of goes with the embers. Tikkun Olam. Sitting, meditating, in a clearing forest deep around. At edge, our eyes meet. A doe, her fawns deeper in the trees. When two worlds collide, something in each one trembles. In these encounters, sparks of a sort leap back and forth, shocking us. Recognizing a larger universe, these worlds, mankind and other, in the larger world, a woods at its center, exchange thoughts with a deer, is no more imaginary than anything else. Conversations, tremblings, sparks of recognition that can heal the world.
Before I walk away and you have to come back over here, do you want me to introduce the next person? Oh, after me, it's going to be Matt Birdsall. This poem has the word haiku in the title, and if you're paying attention, you realize right away that I am not a strict adherent to the hollowed 5-7-5 syllable pattern, which when I think about it is really probably the plot of third grade teachers to make us all clap along and try to learn syllables. Anyway, this called Haiku from Huffman Dam, January 3rd, 2025, just before Winter Storm Blair reaches the Midwest. Sun rioted through low clouds over the dam, burning molten orange whip cracks in the mauve fluff floating past Dayton. Star-burnished fractals jutted from shore into gray sky. The small, bald nation of lake trees glowed for scant minutes. 8 geese drifted down, coasting surface liquid like a skate troupe in unison, gliding to a synchronized rest. Then the light vanished, leaving like a warm trickster saying goodbye, and now I leave you to winter. A frigid breeze blew up behind me. Ripples emanated on the water before me, first a small arc wave, then a spreading semicircle. That was pretty short. Can I do one more? Okay. This is called Late One Sunday Afternoon or Early One Sunday Evening. The exhaled cigar puff floated into the September sunset from the Rad River's bank, while the water coursed toward Dayton. Smoke tendrils slid toward the current, then billowed and climbed over the glittering water, filled with air like a mainsail's ghost, breezed past my sight, then diffused into nothingness. Sitting under low brush that blocked the eye-watering sun, my eyes danced to the glowing throb of light, reflected from current rippling on the leaves' undersides. Not much left of summer. Another work of week in the morning, only a few miles from home. A great blue heron glissaded along the far bank like a harbinger. Thanks. And give it up for the bike riding poet from Beaver Creek, Matt Birdsall.
Wow, I wish I had something super energetic and positive to read, but I don't. But I am going to read one. This year's been a real doozy for me. I lost like probably one of my best friends from grad school recently. He's a diabetic, and he was living alone, and he came home, and his blood sugar got too low, and he fell and hit his head, and then he died. And I wrote this poem way before that, and there's some less than nice things about his mom. So I didn't read it recently at his viewing, even though his brother really wanted me to. And so you can tell me after you've heard this if I should have read it or I should not have read it. It's called A Passing Emergency. And it's way longer than all the stuff you've heard. So I got to apologize. I'm going to stretch your attention, and it's late too. So deal with it. A passing emergency. Living with 3 English majors in grad school in a farmhouse in Ohio, and this isn't in the poem, but it's like right down the road, was a study in mortality. We read dead authors and translated dead languages in classes all day, honoring the artfulness of immortality. So for us, suicide wasn't really dying. It was living on your own terms, and like most aging adolescents, we believed we were exempt from the rules of time. Or we could at least twist them into a useful shape like the unfiltered hand-rolled cigarettes I smoked, despite everyone and my mother telling me to stop and knowing full well what they were doing to me. One night on the side porch, we were joking about the cleanliness of Sylvia Plath's suicide. Her face nestled neatly on clean, folded napkins at the base of her oven while she inhaled carbon monoxide, hastily replacing the oxygen in her red blood cells. And my roommate confessed to us how he was admitted to a psych hospital just 2 years before after eating a few too many magic mushrooms on his pizza and calling his mom to explain he could time travel. Without listening or advising, she hung up and dialed 911. He told us he was really confused and scared, speeding through red traffic lights to the hospital where he eventually calmed down and confessed to a first-year resident in the ER he'd once considered suicide after she coaxed him to trust her. To be totally honest, his trust got twisted into insanity when he admitted he considered the method, overdosing on insulin because he was diabetic. And the truth he told, coupling a behavior with specific conditions, earned him 90 more days of inpatient treatment when he said he really just needed someone to listen instead of hanging up. Or at least listen first and then quickly hang up and dial 911, or maybe just call him back after the 911 call. We all sat there and blasted his mother because we thought she could have done more. Now, when I travel back to the night he told the story over 15 years ago, I can't help thinking about the space between his mother hanging up and the ambulance pulling onto his road. Red lights first, as if scanning for signs of life. And I realized she had no choice but to call 911, and I would have done the same thing she did. and rushed to get my child help the best way I could. Today, sitting in my car, I watched an ambulance scurry through a red light, zigging around pedestrians who were all just inches away from being hit. And I remembered he said his mother was the first person he recalled visiting him at the inpatient treatment facility. I turned and looked at my daughter in the back seat. I checked the traffic light to make sure it was still red, and then double-checked her seatbelt while reassuring myself that she would never put her head in an oven or eat too many mushrooms, and I didn't need a cigarette, all while I calmly reassured her not to be fearful about a passing emergency beyond my control. Thank you so much. Up next is Wiley.
It's great to be here tonight. My poem is called Fear of the Flip. I was excited about working breakfast, cooking bacon strips by the hundreds, forking homemade English muffins, and sending them through the conveyor belt toaster, which lobbed them out in a matter of seconds, craggy, topped, and crisp. We could have as much coffee as we wanted, and we needed it. Tickets spit from the printer so fast, never stopping. I thought it was broken. The one thing I dreaded was the skill most important. And as the only female on the line, I didn't want to fuck it up with everybody laughing at me on my first day. But I didn't know how to do it. I had tried to teach myself at home the day before. I borrowed a small non-stick skillet from a cook I knew, and I bought a dozen eggs. But the only yolk I didn't break, the egg was so bad flip ugly, it would have been unservable. Now terrified, I stood at the stove with the cook who was my trainer, a middle-aged man with a gentle manner and strong hands. "Can you flip an egg?" he asked, smiling. "No, not really," I mumbled. "Okay, bueno, watch me," he said, turning on a burner. He cracked the egg into the hot pan, turning it in circles to keep the egg moving. With a smooth flip, he sent the egg up into the air. It turned over with the grace of a dancer, landing yolk side down back in the pan. Keeping the egg moving, he flipped it again so elegantly, then right onto the plate. "Over easy," he said. He laughed to see my jaw agape. "Try this," he said. He picked up a clean pan and reached beside the bread shelf and pulled out a corn tortilla. He put it in the pan and flipped it. With a big smile, he flipped and flipped over and over and started to laugh as I watched. "This is what I want you to do," he said, handing me the pan and the tortilla. "Flip when you get home and keep flipping till you go to sleep. Then come in tomorrow and we'll do it with eggs." So that is what I did. The fresh tortilla, soft and fragrant, was the perfect size and shape, but most importantly, it would not break. At first, when I flipped, it drooped over the rim or fell on the floor, but soon it got its balance and, sinking with my wrist, performed lofty loops over and over as I walked around my apartment, flipping and flipping. The next morning, I was nervous but excited. When I arrived, Jorge smiled and gestured toward the stove. I put the pan on the flame and I squirted in some butter. I tapped an egg on the counter and broke it over the sizzle. The clear albumen began to whiten as I sprinkled grains of kosher salt. The yolk was the most dazzling orange. I picked up the pan, moving the egg tightly in a circle. I snapped my wrist up. The egg floated skyward, then gracefully turned over like a gentle wave. I brought the pan up to meet it at just the right moment. Jorge was smiling, saying, "Do it again." I stood there and flipped the egg over and over, smiling. I was full of relief and gratitude and pride. I think of Jorge and his patient encouragement, and I always employ a corn tortilla whenever I train a cook to flip an egg. Thank you.
I've listened to many people talk about birds tonight, and I have a particular poem about another bird called Vulture Watch. Against a bright blue sky, chill still in the air, nearly a dozen vultures roost, motionless, dark ornaments in the leafless sycamore, their wings outstretched, tips reaching like fingers toward the sun. Once warmed, their slow, deep wing beats lumber, lift them to soar upward in rising thermals above the frozen field, bristled in corn stubble. In these warm columns of air, downward they glide without flapping their wings, searching for carrion with keen sight and sense of smell, the strongest among all birds. Vultures do not kill. The Cherokee call them peace eagles. They feed collectively, hopping as they chortle around the carcass. Once I approached their communal roost, feeding on a scavenged deer. All but one bird flew away, perched on a hickory fence post, her back to me. The next morning, vultures covered my driveway and front yard. When I opened the door, all but one vulture flew to the neighbor's roof. They knew where I lived. Thank you. This is called Into the Gloaming. The gloaming comes in the burnished light of the setting sun settling on washed dinner dishes, when the lawns are cooled with the evening shade. Rabbits and squirrels frolic in the passing shadows as walkers amble by, chatting softly, tethered to the dogs who stop to pee in someone else's yard. The sun's radiance momentarily blinds them as they turn down familiar streets, blinking their eyes, trying to look through the translucent leaves at the bruised sky. Traffic trickles on the nearby highway. A faraway Harley hums inside a muffled bubble of country music. On the opposite side of the sky, a waning moon drags in darkness. The hazy air is infused with the day's ebbing warmth and light. Children refuse to come inside. They sit on porches waiting, listening to the summer's soothing chorus of crickets and cicadas. A few fireflies emerge. The children watch their faint lights flicker, like their resolve to stay outside, to savor this moment in the fading light of day. A dog's bark breaks the sunset into a warning. Something's emerging amidst the styrofoam headstones and 10-foot skeletons. Now the houses all glow from within, dishes dry but not put away. West-facing brick walls emanate a radiant warmth as dusk arrives and settles in the thin golden glimmer of sunset. Yes, indeed, the day was splendid. One should never miss the gloaming.
Well, the full moon has been inspiring me with a memory. Every winter for 5 years, we would gather to do the full moon ski at Mayflower Gulch. Anywhere from 6 to 10 of us hardy souls would meet in Denver and carpool up to the trailhead 2 hours away. Hot tea in our thermoses, ready to warm us up when we got to the top. I always chose Celestial Seasonings Almond Sunset because it smelled like marzipan when I first took the lid off, and it streamed up my nostrils and steamed up my glasses. The trail up was a lot of work. Our cross-country skis crunching the snow to grab onto it so they wouldn't slip backwards on the steep slope. No matter how cold it was, we were always sweating by the time we were halfway up. But oh, the view when we got there. The bowl that was formed by the Valley of Three Peaks was luminescent. So lit up was the snow by the brilliance of the full moon, you could see far and in great detail, more so than in broad daylight. We sat on the wooden planks left behind from falling apart cabins of long ago, leaving our imaginations to go wondering about who lived there and how long ago, and were they the molybdenum miners from 100 years ago, or hermits, or... We sat on the old wooden porch that had a few spots that hadn't splintered and drank our tea in silence, because it was so spectacularly beautiful that words were best left behind. We could see clearly the outline of every tree and boulder and the deer meandering far away in the moonlit meadow. There was actually nothing to say, only to be experienced. I don't recall us even taking pictures, because the best memory was being taken in by our own eyes. An hour later, we would head down, shushing through the snow, the trees lining the way so we didn't fall off the sides of the trail. It was exhilarating and awesome and a rush. At the bottom again, we would get in our cars and head back to the city. Why did we only do this one full moon a winter? I don't know. Timing and schedule and other kinds of busyness, I suppose. But the memory is still vivid in me, many decades later. The memory of full moon skiing late at night at Mayflower Gulch. The friends, the bowl aglow with moonlight, the scent of almond sunset, the silence, the rush of the downhill. And the smile it still brings to my face and to my 72-year-old body of a time when I was young and the world was more simple and free. Thank you.
Before I begin, I just want to recognize that I would not be here if not for Cathy Essinger. I took my very first creative writing workshop with her many moons ago, and it was her encouragement that set me on my path as a writer. So thank you, Cathy. It's a delight to share this space with you this evening. Combustion in 5 parts. 1. We burned blue hot for months, luminous to all in our orbit, encompassed by delirium as we glided along euphoria, manic in a frenetic dazzle we were sure was discovery of what was always meant to be. Never had fun been wrapped in such joy. Never had laughter been born of such wit. Never had anyone felt like you fit. 2. We settled into blazing white for what seemed like would suit us forever. Opinions of friends buttressed the notion that this was perfection, the fairy tale kind, that anything less diminished the magic, this treasure we shared the hardest to find. I had been skeptic to your assurance, yet you convinced me to finally let go, to trust in your care of my love and its needs, and now this was life together as one. no obstacle dreary enough to cause harm, adventure and comfort in hands holding strong. We were making a home and taking the days as they came, unburdened by past, believing completely that this was our path. 3. The midpoint of fire is yellow in flame, having burned hotter and truer and bright, then changes take place and it's never the same. The spectrum of color begins blue and full, then ambles along and moves into white. The midpoint of fire is yellow in flame. The downslope is orange as things start to cool. When a fire's not fed or stoked, there's a blight. Then changes take place and it's never the same. The final act in the theater of fire is darkened and filled with splashes of red. Its intermission is yellow in flame. Exterior forces can strike without warning, sometimes converging, a flurry of pain. Then changes take place and it's never the same. Our life was uprooted by others' decisions, trauma compounded in rapid succession. At a fire's midpoint, there's often a change. When it took place, we were never the same. The pale of orange hung over everything. When you said we should live separately, when you said we should separate, even when you said we could try us again, but like a fire that just won't catch, reigniting with star-crossed and fleeting. Duran Jones records once played in our house. As you wish, the motive of my heart. You the big spoon I wore like a backpack after late night snacks and Sinatra flicks. Those little connections that couples accumulate, burnt down in orange like a sunset. We always seemed to find ourselves on your red porch swing we carried from house to house to house, a space for lounging or dozing or hashing our grievances. Then came the time we would not convene. We refrained, withheld, sustained. Red hot is a phrase people use to convey a high form of praise. Misbelieve it's the peak of a fire's rage, yet it's the last gasp of heat. When all has subsided into a simmer, embers the portrait of warmth's denouement, the onset of cool a flicker away. I could no longer feel unimportant, so I went silent. You followed my lead as we grew cold with no love left to feed. 5. The red porch light at your front door never dims. It cuts through daylight and paints all the darkness, blanketing your red Jetta in the driveway, kissing your red porch swing that all is away on its stand out in the yard, under the tree limbs, still in search of the right porch to finally call home. You first read To Kill a Mockingbird when your father put it in your hands as a kid, quite possibly the age of Scout, who you must have seen as yourself, precocious and sassy and adoring her dad, and now you've had the chance to stage her story as a play. I sit in the back of the black box to hide, having not seen you or spoken in months since you entered this theater and disliked my tone, walked away without a word, and now I am here to see what you've done in my absence. Jean Louise as your proxy now that she's grown. It isn't until the end, when Atticus has his final porch sit, that I realize the busted old swing of the Finch house is your own. Its worn red paint masked by the stage lights, having hid in plain sight for hours a genius stroke of set design. I am overcome as the characters take their exits. They leave our narrator alone to reflect. Your surrogate eases down on the swing, eyes full of tears, sobs ever so slight. As the play is concluding, I'm moved by her stillness, an inanimate shadow bathed in red light. And now it is fated that we fade to black, this image preserved in a stout mental frame, the final curtain for a flame. Thank you.
I be Mr. 8, first mate on the great ship Lemon Skate. As she plies the trades and the gales of infinity. Who knows what creativity lurks in the hearts of men? Mr. 8 knows. Now hold on to your caps and grab the rails while I regale you with a poem written by me adventurous young shipmate, Bruce Parker. A scallywag that he is. The 8th Degree by Bruce Parker. Anticipate, navigate, self-regulate, concentrate, activate, caffeinate, appreciate, communicate, supercalifragilisticate, insatiate, subjugate, appropriate, speculate, profit take. Take it from the masses and give it to the asses, the crow magnates. Have we married America ingrate again? Relocate, confiscate, segregate, incarcerate, nay, exonerate, integrate, reinstate, reparate. Is there an expiration date? Stimulate, invigorate, articulate, appreciate, exuberate, cooperate, pupate, metamorphate, kundaliniate, kundaliniate, cohabitate, ovulate, undulate, procreate, consummate, populate, perambulate, titillate. Want to go on a date? Obfuscate, aggravate, conflagrate, expectorate, manipulate, macerate, ruminate, polysorbate, abdicate, you potentate, overweight, underweight, overstate, understate, overrate, underrate, mistake, extrapolate. Oh, what the copulate. Hesitate, coagulate, dissipate, formulate, gravitate, gyrate, vibrate, resonate. Ain't life great? I know what you're all thinking, me mates. That guy has an 8 up his sleeve. Nay, better than that. I've got pieces of 8 in me pouch. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. It's so good to see everybody. It feels to me like a reunion almost, because there's some people I didn't get to see for quite a while. This poem is to make you warmer because it's about a beach that Carol and Rita and I were on for a week last September. It's called Sand Between the Toes. I stepped gingerly out toward the surf, feet bare, pants rolled up to test the water. I had collected a pocket full of stones, rose, emerald green, china blue, and earth tones with scratches and layers, eroded, smooth, or mottled. But now decided it was time, after decades missed,
to feel the surf, surprisingly warm, the undertow beneath my feet, the water rushing up to my ankles, waves breaking high above me between vegetated concrete blocks. Heading back to the cottage, feet dry, shoes and socks worn again, I walk through the screen door and turn toward the kitchen with a smile. The long-lost feeling of sand still snuggled between my toes. Thank you.
Hello. I'd like to read 2 poems from my forthcoming book, Through the Looking Glass, which has a mirror motif, and there's a little bit of fire in the second poem. The first poem is called In Retrospect. The walrus said, I weep for you. I deeply sympathize through the looking glass. Alice, life is a curious madhouse. People shuffle in and out. Somebody wants your head. Every path leads to nowhere, but you can't go back to yesterday. Never disappear for good. But if you do, crawl through the wrong door, come to the wrong party, break your teacup, eat me, drink me, such beautiful soup. Lose your muchness till you don't care which way you ought to go. Tomorrow is always another day to while away and naysay. Tweedle by the sea till your torso turns to paper and you drip sand like an hourglass. Or your pig with wings flies in to take you away and you wake from nonsense or reason. Day moon, a strange elixir, morning dreams. And the last poem I want to read is called The Blood. Part 1. Inside her weakness, darkly framed, 3 drops of blood fell on an ivory canvas. She saw beauty in the stain, spoke more prophecy than wish, of legacy in contrasts both grim and good. Before the breaking, there is blood. Before the water bursts, first pains attack. From open caves, rivers gush, never come back. Redbirds rush in a frenzy along the riverbank, a dust of snow, a huntsman all in black. Sacramental water, wine, and bread. A child is born, a mother dead. 2. Though frost may ice a cold-bloomed rose, and night shroud them both, love endures the cruelest season, bestows the warmth to waken seeds. How bright even a winter sun! That warmth clears the mist, dispels any lingering gloom, our ruin, sanctifies maiden and prince. Petals, or a rubied Judas kiss. The blood redeems the sin oppressed, corrupted flesh, burns ice, deep as ebony, that fire dances on the snow. A weeping angel has no color, river of heaven, still waters reflect infinity's depth. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Let's take the topic of a poem, like a newfound, uncut river stone of hidden glints and layered bands, and turn it in our cadent hands to see what stanzas it may foster from its intrinsic phonic luster. Let our word flow dusted off, round its edges, burnish, gloss. Let revision do a number, that it may issue buffed and sanded from our whirling verbal tumbler in its final polished stage, then set our heartfelt poem, gem-like, in typesetting of a page. One more. But the trees never forgot the taste of that first green draft of spring, and every year grew tall and strong at the all-you-can-eat buffet of light. Blue skies, sweet balm for gray-soaked eyes. Streams brought news of snowmelt in the mountains, each pooling flake, a potlatch for pine boughs, a drinking horn for touch-me-not, a bottoms-up for Bethany, a silver coin in the cumulus fountain. The moon was a piñata of mist, an aquifer of fireflies, a side view mirror for the sun. Rocks in riverbeds were notes in gurgling madrigals. Squirrels' nests were coonskin caps for dashing treetop acrobats. Rising sap was a working pleasure cruise to heaven, and every bud a verdant port of call. The wind sang a wordless siren song, every tree a mast, and every leaf an unfurled solar sail. The living figurehead of Mothership Earth was the moss on the tree trunks, the moles in the ground, and the clouds in the sky.
Hello. Well, I was just thinking it's a time of year where the warmth brings mice in. This is a poem called Church Mouse, and there's some allusions in it that if you weren't raised in a parochial school, you may not catch, but the different orders of the religious wore different colors and things like that, and that's how we could identify them, so there's some allusions there. But this is called Church Mouse. We heard him first on the feast of St. Nicholas, a mouse, celibate we hoped, who made a monastic cell in the insulation behind the kitchen wall. While he quietly worshipped us as unseen gods, providers of warmth and food and solitude, we began to doubt his existence. But soon there were scratched messages like Saxon runes in the cooling wax of an extinguished Christmas candle from this scurrying little scribe. I imagined him as a fat Dominican, a black-backed, white-bellied fan of Aquinas. My husband saw him as a brown, fat Franciscan field mouse. We could have let such a scholar stay for the winter to ponder the number of angels dancing on a grain of sugar. We might have shared our crumbs and what we knew of life, but his theology suddenly turned scatological. We had no choice. A regular Martin Luther on the pot, dropping evidence of his angst in our silverware drawer. In the snapping trap of a counter-reformation, we excommunicated him. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. This is my first open mic night in quite some time, so I'm really excited to be here. All right, so this first one is called Triptych, and it does have a solstice in it. It is the summer solstice, but I do hope you'll forgive me. 1. Crush. Orange squeeze, clenched fist, low belly, juice drips. Tart pith, pulp squish, tensed bow, your lips. 2. Solstice. Oh dear, it just ran away. 1 second. Rasp longing's edge against amber evenings. Summer's lull hums sharp and sweet. Long hours of twilight, the heart's dark meat. And this last one is called Bedtime, or this last one in the three is called Bedtime Stories. Oh, little sun, someday you will not burn someone's hands. And then this is the my last poem that I'm going to be reading, and it's called Murmuration. And I figured we're gonna end out the theme of birds. Ribbons of birds ride rivers of air, knitting dusk to night. Old ways keep warm through individual wings, pectoralis beating, pushing down. 1,000 hearts, supracordis beating, lifting up. Inevitable, aggregate, instinctual. This is how they build eternal, wing beat to wing beat. This is how we love, heartbeat to heartbeat. Each individual choice, aggregate, knitting present to future, primal as sinew. Oh, ribbons of birds, oh, rivers of air, show me the old ways, breathing, twisting, each action stitching me closer to you. Thank you.
This poem, is the mic good? This poem is about memory and mystery, family, nature, and the beauties of this particular season. It's one poem, but it, Matt, is a double sonnet. Evergreen. And before I read it, I apologize in advance. It is, I fear, a tad sentimental, and I hope you will forgive me that sin. Evergreen. She offered him a mittened hand to hold and smiled to me as they went out the door. Her snowsuit warding off the winter cold. And folded in the evening, they'd explore familiar walkways and what lay beyond, observing nature's mysteries at night. For they enjoyed a father-daughter bond, which brought them both adventure-filled delight. The two then headed down the boulevard and paused before a copse. Their special pine was waiting in the neighbor's nearby yard to be transformed into a Christmas shrine. Its arms branched out in invitation. See, my little girl ran up to it with glee. 2. She rolled her body toward the trunk beneath the overspreading tree limbs full of cones, looked up and fancied that they made a wreath for her composed of glowing, precious stones. Some icicles were hanging frosty rays. She loved their twinkle, and with glad surprise proclaimed them fairies, Tinkerbells. Her gaze held wonder and amusement in her eyes when they returned excitedly to tell what happened at the Pine. And I must keep heartfelt their sense that nature casts a spell, recalling this rare moment, now I weep with gratitude for husband, toddler, scene, this vivid memory still evergreen. Thank you.
Is this good? I think this is good. Okay. I also lost a friend, a dear friend of mine earlier this year. We grew up together. We raised our babies together. I thought we would grow old together, so I'm a little lost without her, but she's my Ember. This poem is called Dying Friend as Shooting Star. When Irene pointed to the page in the textbook that shows how you can thrust your fingers to your cervix and pull out the clear fluids that stretch almost 3 inches to know when the time is right for a baby, we laughed. At the black and white picture of a woman's index finger and thumb stretching fertile cum in a photograph captioned, example, egg white mucus. We were 26, learning about our female cycles from a book, our sex organs pulsing fertility and desire. I went home that night and climbed on top of my man, knowing I would be pregnant the next morning. Irene and I had 4 children each, planned their arrival around seasons and stars, nothing a surprise then. Now her ovaries light up like orbiting moons on a PET scan. One must come out, the other may stay. At 52, cancer has moved into every dark corner of her body. The surgeon points to a speckled cluster of lymph nodes. New lumps appear in spiral galaxies around organs and lungs. On the day she decides to stop treatment, Irene tells me she's ready. She reaches deep inside to find this clarity, holds it behind her eyes where it radiates into every living cell, pours through all she touches, stretches between her fingers, drips down her arms. She is illuminated with nothing left to do but wait, nothing left but light.